Hey real estate nerds, this is Alex Yoder with Pro Tip Tuesday, my favorite day of the week, and today I want to talk again about demand postings. I've talked a little bit about this in the past, but I want to kind of recap some of the challenges that we're seeing because it is very complicated, and if you don't have the right demand with the right demand posting deadline, and you don't follow the right processes, and don't have all the right language, you might be a month into this thing or more and just have to restart the entire thing. So you want to make sure that you are doing it correctly. And I will say, as I always do, make sure you're speaking with your legal counsel to get everything positioned and so you kind of know what the exact process is. I'm going to be a little vague, but I want to give you some idea of what I'm talking about. So these days, you either are going to post a 3, a 5, a 10, or a 30-day demand. That's right. There are 4 different possible demand periods that you can give to tenants depending on a couple things. Is the property federally backed? How many properties do you own or manage? Is it a substantial breach of lease or not? So these are some of the things that you have to consider when you are evaluating what exact demand period to be posting. The other thing is that most counties, at least this is what we're hearing from our legal counsel, most counties are now requiring a date certain. Sorry, not a demand certain, but a date certain. What that basically means is, back in the day, we could just say, and at the time it was a 3-day demand, we could just say, this is a 3-day demand, do your own math. And the day of posting didn't count. But now we have to put the date certain, aka the exact day that they have to actually comply by. And while that may seem simple, it can get a little complicated because you may not be considering the fact that the day that you attempted or served didn't count towards the total number of days, or you didn't think about the fact that you need to do 2 or 3 attempts depending on the situation. 2 or 3. 2 is basically the standard, but sometimes with gender-based violence situations, it's 3 attempts. And so you're not thinking about all of those additional days that you have to make various attempts at service before you could actually post the demand. And now you end up in court and you're like, oops, that was 29 days, not 30 or whatever the demand period was. So you want to really be well set up, again, with the correct demand that has all the required disclosures. That's something else that I didn't mention yet. Not only do you need to have a date certain, but there are several specific bills that you have to inform your tenants of on the demand itself. And there are some things you want to be careful about not including in the demand in certain counties. So again, speak with your attorney about that, because there are some fees, for example, that shouldn't be on the demand, arguably, or it could trip you up in the courts through the court system, again, depending on the county. I will repeat, I am not an attorney. Do not follow my advice, just call an attorney. But I'm trying to give you an idea of what some of this looks like. The other thing is that even though you're not technically required to, you're not technically required to date and time or GPS stamp your attempts before you actually serve, or the proof of service itself if the tenant wasn't there. It's not a bad idea. Now, based on conversations that we've had with our legal counsel, the odds of the tenant saying, you didn't actually come, you're making this up, and the judge believing them is very low, but it's still not a bad idea to protect yourself and sort of make sure that you have that in your back pocket in case you need it. So when we are doing attempts, or when we are posting something on the door because the tenant wasn't there, we are documenting that we were there. And something that we actually started doing recently is, on those attempts, we will actually post a little sticker to the door, kind of like what you get when you get a note from UPS. A little sticker on the door from us saying, hey, we were here. Please make payment immediately to avoid any additional charges, this kind of thing. So not only to help them to know, hey, the longer this takes, the more money gets built up and the more it'll hurt you, and we don't want our tenants to be hurt, but also to show proof that we were in fact here, because it kind of helps with some of that argument. So just make sure you're covering your bases and speak with your counsel. Get the correct demand posting, not online, but from your legal counsel. Do all the service attempts correctly and document those. If you can't do that or don't feel comfortable doing that, I would recommend that you hire a process server most areas have companies that are trained specifically for this to make sure you're checking all the right boxes and doing everything correctly so that you're well positioned, and it's not particularly expensive. So it's something to consider if you are self-managing and don't have a management company in your corner. So hopefully this was helpful. We'll see you next week.